Coach's Corner is your source. Baseball, football, soccer, and hoops. The Coach's Corner has the scoop. It's the Coach's Corner with Andy.
Covering Tri-State sports, it's the Coach's Corner with Andy on 92.1 The GOAT.
It's the Coach's Corner.
Hey, I'm Andy. I have Rick Carter here, a man who probably needs no introduction, as Rick, you have coached all over the place for numerous amounts of years, you've probably touched in almost just about every sport.
Yeah, good.
You have quite the resume. And thank you for hanging out with us today. It's a pleasure to have you on. So what I want to start with first is I want to talk a little bit about your time as a junior league football coach. I believe you had said you coached for about 16 years in Washington County Junior League football. Is that right?
That is correct.
What team were you? Did you one team for all 16 years, or were you multiple teams over the span?
I was with the Hagerstown Redskins.
Oh, okay, cool. My favorite team at pro-wise. Yours too? Oh, great. So you're riding high right now as well.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, it's been a good NFL season so far.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about junior league football. Kind of fill everybody in on the culture there in junior league football, what the coaching was like, and kind of some of the directions you approached with the kids and how to teach them the fundamentals and make sure they develop not only as good players to succeed in high school and beyond if they want to, but to become good people as well.
Basically, my approach was, the same with junior league football, with any sport I coach. You've got to show the kids you care. You got to be genuine, and sometimes you're going to get your heart broken. Just to some of the situations some of the young athletes are going through. And you just need to pour into them. And quite honestly, I found that that's a lifetime approach. It's kind of like once you've played for me, you're always on my team. And I still have quite a few adults that played for me, and some of them are even coaches now that I still mentor from time to time. So it's not really, for me, it wasn't really just coaching the sport. It was coaching the whole person.
That's wonderful to hear. And I love hearing that from a coach that has been around so long, such as yourself. It's good to have a good role model like that in the coaching world for other coaches to look up to that have just started coaching. Like myself, I've only been doing it for about a year with my daughter's soccer team, and I've only had one sport so far. I don't have quite the resume that you have yet. But I do see you have a lot of connections in the county with coaching wise. I think the last time, so just to give kind of a history for people, we tried to get together a couple weeks ago and we had some technical issues. And when we got into the recording, you and Tim Small were in the room together. And do you know Tim? Did you coach Tim growing up?
No, Tim's dad, Mike, was a longtime junior basketball league coach, and a longtime Washington County Junior Football League coach. He is an official. I think he still officiates some basketball games. And I reconnected with Mike during my term as athletic director at Broad Fording because he did a lot of our games. He literally would travel all the way up from Baltimore to do some games in this area, and that's outstanding that someone's that dedicated.
Yeah, it's good to see in the sports world. So a little bit more about your junior league football tenure there. When was your last season that you coached there?
Oh my goodness, it's hard to put a finger on the actual year. I tend not to make records and keep track of those things. The only reason I knew that it was 16 years is it came up one time in a meeting. I think it was during one of my last years there that I was going to get first choice at picking something, not players, but first choice at picking something maybe like the concession stands. I can't remember exactly what, because at that point in time I had 16 years of service, or was working on my 16th year. And so they were like, yeah, we're going to let you pick first. So.
And you're probably sitting there like, wow, I've been 16 years.
Actually, I had no idea.
I would imagine. Yeah. And that's how you know you love it so much, like you don't keep the record like that. You just do it and it becomes part of your life. And after a while, someone's usually there to remind you how long you've been doing it.
Y-
But
Yeah, that's been my experience in everything I've coached. Someone comes along and tells me how long I've been there, how many championships we've won, how many this, how many that, and I'm just
yeah.
kind of like looking at them thinking, well, I guess I can't answer that.
If you kept track of all that, you'd have to carry around a notebook this thick, right?
Yeah, I got some coaching notebooks that thick, but nothing with my record.
So you also did a little bit of coaching in baseball. You coached in Morgansville Little League for a while. Now, as you said, we don't really you don't really keep record of how long, but just you gave me a kind of a ballpark area. You started around 1975, all the way up to 2018, around that time.
Yeah, that's
Um,
that would be close. Yes.
the Morgansville Little League program is excellent, and I see now that that's probably mainly because they had you on board with everything. You did serve on the board at Morgansville, correct?
I served on the board most of those years I was there, except for a
Hmm.
few when I was working as AD at Broadfording because with coaching at Broadfording, coaching at Morgansville, it's very difficult to serve in two capacities there. So there were a few years
Yeah.
where I didn't, but and thanks for giving me credit there for being part of that Morgansville program. But there were a lot of other good people there that deserve a lot more credit than I do.
Understandable. Yeah, like I understand. It doesn't take one person. It takes a village, especially to run something like that. Now, one of the other things you served as that kind of caught my eye was the district administrator for the Maryland District One Little League for 3 years. What exactly does that entail? What are your responsibilities as that district administrator?
As district administrators, you're here to oversee and guide all the leagues. And at one point in time, we had 16 leagues. We used to go all the way up to Oakland, Maryland, and we had 16 leagues. And basically, you need to train the new presidents. So you have to have meetings and you have to get a lot of information out to them. And you have to sometimes visit the leagues. And sometimes when they have issues that they're having difficulty solving, you have to make personal visits, take some staff with you, and try to guide them through the problems and what would be correct actions to get everything back on track. You're actually in charge of the all-star programs, all divisions. You and your staff are pretty much game directors, and sometimes you get other people because you don't have enough staff to go around. Um, it's just basically, I guess, an administrative role for all the leagues in your district.
That's pretty cool. The reason it caught my eye is because that last thing you mentioned, the All Star teams, the District One All Star teams, I actually played for halfway growing up in Little League. Played halfway Little League, and I was on the All Star team for a few years. And I recognize that Maryland District One Little League, like that saying, it kind of goes with that All Star team too, because that's how they clarify you if you make it far enough in those playoffs. What years did you serve as that administrator? Maybe you were in there when I was playing Little League.
I can't even tell you the years. Like I said, I keep
Okay.
no records. I do what I feel like I'm being led to do and how I can help, and
Hmm.
I really don't keep records. So
Now that I think about it, I can't really. I'm not gonna really date myself here, but I don't remember the actual year that I played. I know it was the year. I'm sure you're familiar with the name Nick Aidenhart. Um,
absolutely.
I actually played on the All Star team with him,
Okay.
and a couple others. Dave Warnfeltz, I'm sure you're familiar with him.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, a couple other people on that team that I came up with, and got to play high school with those guys as well. And all great people. And Dave Warnfeltz Senior as well. He helped coach, and Les Martin. I don't know if
right.
you're
I
familiar.
know.
Yep,
Yeah.
yeah, yep. They're all great coaches and wonderful people, and I got to take place in that. We ended up playing against each other at one point in the All Stars
I
on your team.
I don't know if we played against you guys in the All Stars, but I do know that if you played in high school, um, my Broadfording team played in your Easter tournament one year over there.
Okay.
Um, we didn't fare so well. You guys were really good.
Yeah, Williamsport's always had a really good baseball program over there. Baseball and volleyball seem were there
Right.
was the two sports when I was going through high school. I actually played soccer as well, before I got into, I think maybe my freshman year, our soccer team was outstanding, made it to state finals, and we actually made it one more time, I believe, maybe my senior year or no, it's my junior year.
Okay.
But not saying they're not really great now, but those were the two shining programs, was the baseball and the volleyball team.
Right.
And yeah, a lot of great players on the baseball team still today. I think AJ Jameson, if I'm correct, is the coach over there now, and he was a player at Williamsport as well. Yeah.
AJ is over there now, and I actually brought him in when I was still on the district staff. I brought him in to do one of our coaching clinics. Had
Okay.
AJ, and of course I had Dave Warnfield Sr.
Hmm.
and Fred Krager, and so I used to always use those guys because I was fortunate enough when I started coaching to know Chuck Zonis, and all those guys at that time were assistant coaches for Zonis at North, and what a great bunch of guys, and they did a lot for Morgansville. We brought them out there to do clinics pretty much like at one point in time, probably for about 5 or 6 summers in a row. They did baseball camps there for Morgansville in the summer. All those guys were great, and I was fortunate to be around Chuck. Chuck actually started teaching at North High when I was going to school there, and that's where I was introduced to Chuck. And I will always be a Chuck Zonis fan, and I will tell everybody that there is a great influence still in this area from coaches that coached under Chuck. So call it the Zonis
That's all.
effect.
That's oh. I'm sure I've heard that one or two times before playing sports in the area. Another coaching position I can kind of relate to you with is it's what I'm currently coaching in now. You coached in the Hagerstown Area Youth Soccer League for a little bit.
I did. I didn't volunteer to. That's one of the only places I didn't volunteer to coach. That
Mhm.
was one where a gentleman that knew me said, "Hey, you're my coach," and I said, "I don't know anything about soccer." And he looked at a friend of mine who was from the Morgansville area too, and he said, "You're an assistant coach too." And when the first game rolled around, the head coach didn't show up, and we were looking at each other like, "Oh, this is going to be great. We don't know a thing about soccer. We're just doing what he tells us to do." So I ended up coaching that year in soccer. I don't think I coached any soccer after that because it was like none of my children wanted to play soccer after that first year. They both played for 1 year, and that was it. And so it was kind of like, okay, that's baseball season, and I'm a busy guy during baseball season, so we're not going to do that. I appreciated the opportunity he gave me. I basically got to coach the goalie and the fullback, and that was more than enough for me with soccer because I never played soccer and I didn't understand it, and it was tough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. What age group was it, if you don't mind me asking, that you
I
coached?
think at that time it was probably somewhere around 10 or 11-year-olds.
Okay, so it was they were competitive and they had understood the game a little bit. I was going to say if it was on the younger side, I don't mean to discredit any coaches that coach, ages 9 and down or 8 and down, 8 and lower, but the kids don't really, they play the game, but they don't play the game.
Right.
They don't do positions. They don't do goalies. It's kind of get the ball, score the goal, have fun.
Yeah.
Here's how you pass the ball. Here's how you trap the ball. But yeah, so like you said, you got told to coach. A lot of people, a lot of the coaches, in fact, most of the coaches in Hazel are volunteer and their parents. Everything's strictly volunteer through that league, even the concession stands, and that's how it is for Little League too. A lot of the times. And without without those volunteer parents, where would some of these leagues be?
And you're so right about that. That's I want to look at and listen to Little Leagues, and that's one thing that most of them are in agreement that getting volunteers nowadays is really tougher and tougher and tougher. And one of the things that I look at, and I always tell people is, you guys charge people a fee, and then they have to do either so many concession stand dates or so much field work, and
Yep.
you're having trouble getting people because nowadays people's time is valuable. And as soon as you put a dollar price on it, they start weighing it out and saying, well, here, I'll just give you the money and forget it. Before they started charging the fee at Morgansville, we really never had any problem getting volunteers. Not that it wasn't some difficult nights, but I think that all, once again, that comes down to the coach. You have to get the parents to buy into what you're doing. You have to get them to buy into what the league is doing. And then you have to let them know what their fair share is. And you got to trust them to do their fair share. And you're going to have some people that maybe can't because they work too much or maybe just don't want to volunteer. But I've always found that with communicating and getting to know your parents, the parents that can't volunteer, someone else, another parent always picks up that slack. I
Yeah.
really never had a hard time with anything getting volunteers to do things when I was coaching. So the parents will pick up the slack for the other kids if they understand what the whole program's about.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I've experienced that as well. Being a Hazel coach myself, we like you said, responsible for taking care of the fields, responsible for some concessions and a couple other little things here and there. And I make it clear and upfront when the season starts. This is a volunteer league.
Right.
You volunteer means you don't have to do it, but I would highly appreciate if you did.
Right.
I tell them, I'll do it with you. Like, I'm not going to just send you out there on your own. Like, I'll come help you as well. And a lot of them looked at me like I had five heads when I first said that. And they're like, I have to volunteer? Because some of the kids at that young age, I coach ages 5 to 7 right now. At that young age, you get your kid in there, you're just thinking, you don't think about the volunteer aspect
Right.
of the actual whatever sport you're playing. But over as the season progressed, we got more and more into it and other opportunities, and a lot of them stepped up. And like you said, it's like they help each other out. They're kind of like their own little family.
Right.
And that's what I always try to say. We're like a little family. We help each other out. If somebody can't do one thing, another can do another. If you can't do this, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna think differently of you or anything like that. But yeah, it's really cool to see. So, and that, like we said, that goes for every recreational sport.
Yeah.
Little League's like you were talking about. Little League is a huge community sport, and it's really cool to see. And if you ever have, to anybody listening, if you ever have the opportunity with your child to get involved in a sport like a local Little League or a recreational league, definitely take the opportunity because we've made a lot of new friends. You get a lot of new connections. Kind of opens up a whole new world. So.
It does. And there's so many people that would volunteer, but they don't know how to do or what to do. And no one ever talks to them. And I was fortunate. I do landscaping now. I just do it to stay kind of busy. And because I retired, I don't know, 20 years ago. But ever since I retired, I've been working landscaping. And I have a customer whose children went through Morgansville Little League. And she actually thanked me. Her husband was a veteran who was a wounded warrior, and he was wheelchair bound. And I got him involved in Little League, and he was like, "Well, what can I do?" And of course, I at one point in time I was equipment manager at Morgansville for quite a while, and it's a big undertaking to try to coach a team and get every other team's equipment ready and keep it in good repair and make sure you got spare uniforms and because they get torn and busted up. But anyways, I talked him into helping with equipment, and he did an outstanding job. And she actually thanked me here a couple months ago for getting him involved and giving him something to do. And I never thought about it that way. That here's someone that wants to do something to help, but just didn't know how. And fortunately, I was able to talk to him and say, "Hey, Bill, is there any way you can give us a hand here? We could use some help." And he was a wonderful asset for several years.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's awesome. Um, so not to just completely discredit the subject because I love talking about that, but I also want to touch on one more thing here before our time runs out. One of the big things, in my opinion, you were one of the founders and also served as a director for the Hagerstown Upward Sports Flag football and cheerleading program. Is that right?
Yes, I founded the football program. I had two guys that helped me a lot. Curtis Litton, his name will probably pop up in some things around the area, and Kyle Jason. And so those two guys, they were, I had two right hand men. They were great. Anyways, yeah, we founded that up at Broad Fording on the school grounds up there at the Christian Academy. Then later we kind of outgrew that because as our numbers increased, and with the soccer programs at Broad Fording trying to use the same field, practices became difficult. So we moved to the Morgansville area over here at the elementary school out front, right along Morgans Avenue. And I'm saying that was about 5, maybe 6 years ago. That's been a really good fit. There's a lot of fields around there to practice on, and that's been a good fit. And then actually, I also helped start the Upward Basketball League, which has exploded. There are over 500 participants in that program. Um, and my son was a pastor and at Morgansville Bible Brethren Church, and they had a little basketball program at Morgansville, and kids were coming to Upward on a Saturday morning from basketball registration and were coming back saying we couldn't get in, they're full. My son came to me and he goes, Dad, what can we do? And I was like, well, Upward does have a basketball program, but if we were going to do that, we should have started months ago. He said, can you do it? And I was like, I got like 3 weeks to put this together because we got to start practicing. So we got it together, and he said, I think we'll probably have 30, 40 players. And I said, nah, you're going to have over 100 this first year, easy. And we had, I think over the first year, I think we had probably somewhere between 100 and 200, but it's up to over 500 now. And I continue to help from time to time with that. I'm not as active with it right now as I used to be, but I still have gone to some churches and met with some other churches and said, hey, I know you have a gym space. Would you like to join us and get involved in this Upward basketball program? I think you enjoy it. It's a wonderful way for your church to do some ministry and benefit some children in the area. So, yep. So that Upward program is running pretty good. Like this year with football, we had, I don't know, 150 or more kids playing in that flag football program. And right now, talking with my son, we're in consideration of trying to talk to the high schools that have the girls' flag football programs to see if we can get some people there involved to actually do a middle school all girls flag football program from each of those schools or any other school that would like to think about starting flag football. Because we do have quite a number of girls that actually play on flag football. Currently, I know at North High there are 3 girls on the North High flag football team that played in the Upward flag football program.
Yeah, they've got a great flag football program over there, from what I hear. Yeah.
Yep, they I went and watched them last night, and South beat them, which was I'm a North High guy, so it's kind of a little heartbreaker. But you know what? I tell you what, South High has some tremendous athletes on that flag football team.
Mhm. Yep. And it's Washington County's first year too in flag football. So, trying to figure all there's always going to be some hurdles and obstacles to get over as a program and as a first time team. So obviously your thoughts on the flag football teams in Washington County now are that of the positive ones. Do you think it'll start to spread out to other counties after this year? I know I talked to some of the athletic directors and they said, there's a lot of moving parts to get something like that going, especially with a new sport. But some of the positives are the equipment cost isn't really that high.
Right.
Flags, what mouthpieces, whatever, your basic stuff.
Yeah.
But you have to have the teams to play.
Right.
And that's they said that was kind of a big factor. And I know I talked to Chad Hartman, the Boonesboro flag football coach as well. And I didn't know that originally before I talked to him, that the Baltimore Ravens organization was helping fund that for this year. And of course, that's probably not going to last forever. Do you think the Upward program would have any step in there to help out with that and help keep that sport going?
Well, I think the Upward flag football program can be a great feeder for that, especially um, if some of the teams like Boonesboro or South or Smithsburg or North, Clear Spring, if they would want to push it forward and try to get some of their middle school girls started in flag football early, we would certainly um, be I'm speaking for them right now, and I shouldn't because my son's church right now handles all the administration of that. But
Mhm.
I know that talking to him, they would certainly want to do their part to try to push that program forward. I mean, obviously he's the head coach at North High, so he kind of really would like to see that flourish because that's a supplier, program for him.
Yeah.
But I don't, with the flag football program at the upward level, the cost there is so minimal. Um, we don't have sponsors. Every now and then someone will come along and say, "Hey, we want to help. What can we do?" And we'll be like, "Well, we're looking to get a portable scoreboard." I mean, right now I think we've got about 3 or 4 of those. And so those kind of things help, but the cost is so little that the registration fee is probably some of the lower registration fees for any sport in the area, covers pretty much everything. It's, very reasonable. Like you said, we're looking at flags, looking at a wrist coach for the players to wear for the plays. Is not too much, involved equipment wise. And that helps a lot. And of course, when we first started out, I kind of fundraised a lot to get our first scoreboard, to get end zone markers, and to get all those things. I kind of ran a concession stand at the Saturday games up at Broad Fording when we were up there, and I sold French fries. And I remember when we moved to Morgansville, we weren't covered under the Broad Fording's policy with the health department, and so I couldn't do it at Morgansville without jumping through some hoops. And I decided it was time to give it up. I caught a lot of flack. People loved those French fries we were making, but they actually paid for a lot of things. We did that fundraising, and that was all volunteer. The parents, I didn't make anybody work the stand. I had a couple people that came to me and said, "Hey, what can I do?" I said, "Well, you want to jump in here and help? You can help sell drinks and run the cash register, run the stuff." But um, I don't see a huge cost with the flag football program because most schools already, if you're talking about the high school and how it would expand, they already have a field. Most of them already have a a male football program. So they already have a field. They already have pretty much everything they need other than the players, some flags, a coach, and some minor equipment and stuff. But it's a lot less expensive than most sports to start.
Yeah, I hope it sticks around, and I hope to see it keep growing. It seems to be very popular in the Washington County high schools, and a lot of people seem to really be in it, which is great to see. But Rick, I know your time is valuable, and I really appreciate you hanging around with me today and chatting about your coaching history and sports in general. And the last thing I want to say to you is, hail to the Commanders.
Hail to the Commanders.
If you'd like to be featured on the Coach's Corner with Andy, email coach at 921thegoat.com.